Hi everyone, thanks. I'm bleeptrack. I'm a creative coder / generative artist. I'm super excited you chose stage C today to listen to my talk. And you might know me from some projects. So for example, from several generative art design creators of several Hackspace events. You might also know me from my fabulous coffee creations. Or maybe my art I did with that. I'm doing neural scribbles there, so I take a random image from a video, generative scribble out of that and render that back in. Or very recently I started to renovate a very weird 80s, 90s German-Dutch electric vehicle. And so sometimes my stuff ends up being in a museum. And this is also generative art. I'm not sure how familiar you are with the term. Maybe you know generative art more as procedural generation. So in the end, it's just a way to make art with code. I write programs that can create images, physical things just out of code, mainly with randomness. And making money as an artist can sometimes be a bit tricky. So this is why I have a Patreon campaign running, and people can basically fund my art through that. And what I do is twice a year, I send out little goodies, little packages with some art projects to my supporters. And this is super exciting for me, because this way I have the opportunity to create little production runs, little very separated experimental art projects twice a year, and that I can also distribute to people, and I hope they enjoy them. And I thought, why not show you some of these, how I made them, what I found tricky, what I found most exciting. So one thing I do for quite some time now is generative art stickers. Maybe you've seen some of these around. This is from the project Bugs and Beetles. So it's a program, it's a software that creates little images of funky little fun beetles. But I also do some that are more very big and come out of the project Overflower. So they are a mixture of flowers and mandalas. Some stickers might also look like angry fingers. If you want to know the story behind this, I can maybe tell you more in the Q&A 10. That's quite a long story. But what you've maybe realized is each sticker is unique. So there's no sticker twice, which is fun to give out to people, because they are very astounded by that. Like, how do you make this? And I asked this myself at the beginning, how can I make stickers where I have this uniqueness, where I can show off the variety that comes out of generative art. And the problem is you can't just go to a company that prints stickers and say, can you print me 1,000 stickers, but each one only once? And they might, I don't know, kick you out of the front door maybe. So I started to just print them myself, and printing is easy. You can just print them on vinyl sheets. And the problem is humans tend to have very oily, sticky fingers. And if you touch stickers quite often, you will see they deteriorate super quickly. But what you can do is you can buy some sort of, sometimes it's called cold laminate or protection foil. There are certain types also made out of vinyl to protect the stickers, and you can just like foil your sheets, and then you're good to go. But then there's still one last step left, and this is cutting the stickers. And I have to say, I really enjoy cutting them by hand. I did first try it out with like cutting plotters to automate this, and automation is cool, but I was never really satisfied with the process and ended up like cutting them out by hand. And recently there was a nice event, Hacker Day Berlin, where a maker friend of mine, Deshipu, had a lightning talk and had the really nice statement, if you enjoy doing it, don't automate it. And I know, automation is cool, and a lot of you people will now come and say, yeah, but bleeptrack, I love to do the automation, and that's cool. Automating is fun, optimizing is fun, do that. But maybe think twice about removing something out of your pipeline that you actually enjoy doing. And so I really enjoy cutting my stickers. Sometimes I'd say it's a bit meditative. It's just having a nice thing to do, maybe like knitting. Like you can just sit on the sofa, cut them out, you don't have to think much. It's really enjoyable. I can also I do a signage on each backside usually with my handle, and I take each sticker in my hand and can also enjoy the generative variety myself. So it's a very pleasant process for me. That's stickers. Another thing I wanted to do is t-shirts. And doing generative t-shirts can also be really tricky. A good way to print t-shirts would be with, what's it called? Silk screening? No, screen printing, right? Where you just apply paint on the t-shirt. But the problem is you need to prepare the screen, and that's also quite a process. And preparing this screen differently for each t-shirt would have been an undoable task, basically. So I needed to come up with a different technique that creates cool t-shirts that are durable and look good, but just use a technique where I can individualize each t-shirt easily. And what I came up with is bleaching. So what you can see I'm doing here is I have a very tiny spray bottle filled with household bleach, like cleaning bleach, and I spray this carefully on the stencil and also instantly wipe it away again. Otherwise the stencil would soak up the bleach. And the stencil is made out of, it's a painter's paper, basically. So it's a large roll of craft paper with a very slightly sticking surface on the backside. You can just easily pop that in a laser cutter. I can just press laser that out for this one shirt, and it's a one-time use stencil. Not much material is needed. Not a lot of stuff to throw away. And if you did, I usually do 2 rounds of bleaching there, and then you can just peel it off. And this is a very satisfying process also to see the image reveal here. And I think, the result looks pretty cool. It's very crisp edges. One thing you need to do is after you remove the paper, instantly get it into a sink and wash out the bleach. Otherwise, the shirt will continue soaking up the bleach and you get fizzy lines. That's something you don't want to do. And here you can see my first try I did to get this technique right. And on the right side, you can see the final versions on how these shirts, ended up looking like. And I think I made 20 for the patrons and also quite a bunch for our hack space. And they show nice variety. You can wash them out because you're bleaching, you can't wash out the paint. So it's super, super nice to wash. They look up amazing for a very, very long time. I can really recommend doing this, but don't use too much bleach. Otherwise you get fuzzy lines. That's cool, but sometimes I want to make an art project and it doesn't make sense to start this project to make only one image, because sometimes you have materials or need to use materials in a way that you need, for example, mix quite the right amount of liquids together. So here I wanted to experiment with cyanotype printing. You need 2 chemicals mixed together, and you can't just start with a very tiny amount because then you can't measure it. You need to make it halfway decent milliliters to get it started. And you can see in this glass tray, this is the liquid I mixed, and only with that you can coat maybe 30, 40 A4 sizes of paper. So it's already a huge amount. It doesn't make sense to make this just for one image. But I'm not sure if you've ever done cyanotype. That's really fun. You mix the liquid, you coat your papers, and then you can put the dried papers into the sun because the liquid becomes UV reactive and becomes blue. It's very nice. And you can, of course, then cover the paper of parts where you want to let it stay white. After that, you give it a few gentle washes just in water to rinse out the parts where the UV didn't fixate the color. And you end up with a very cool blue photo-type print. And with this project, I also went a few steps further. So the leaves that I printed in the cyanotype, I also transferred them into the scribbles that you've seen earlier, with the coffee video, and I made scribbly leaf images out of that, and also pen plotted them on the paper to make it even more individual. And I ended up with a really nice arrangement of prints that I did send out, and they were extremely fun to create. But again, this was one production where I was so happy that I had a lot of people waiting for a cool artsy project, and that I could just try it out in this setting, because one piece would have been like a lot of wasted material. Sometimes you might come up with projects where you can't do all the steps on your own. So for example, last winter I had the idea I wanted to make paper star lanterns. So I wrote this generator. On the left side you can see the 3D image of the paper star, how it would about look like when it's finished, and on the right side you can see like the paper stencil that you can either print or cut out in the laser cutter and then assemble n times to get the star out of that. And it was fun to write. It was also fun to laser again. I just put in like thick crafting paper, lasered out the stencils. But what I then realized is that the assembly takes quite some time. And I mean it's a very fun process and it's very rewarding, but I think the assembly of one star was maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and doing this like 20, 30 times would have taken me several weeks. It was just super out of scope. And so instead I thought maybe I could just outsource this activity to my patrons, and I just send out the stencils and let them assemble the stars themselves, because it's a fun experience and I don't have to assemble them all at once. And also it's better for shipping, because you can just send out flat shipping packages instead of like huge assembled stars. So to just show you how they ended up looking, this is what I ended up with. I put like a few LEDs and ESP32s in there, connected them to Home Assistant, and they are like perfect decorative Christmas lights in this case. And yeah, it's nice so you can basically do two different types. These ones, they have like parchment paper in between to be more like a lantern, but you can also leave out the parchment paper, just glue them together individually, and then they are like these very intricate decorative ornaments. Also looks pretty nice, I'd say. So I figured out that sometimes leaving the fun to other people is maybe a good idea. Maybe I could step this up even further. And I thought, why not double the generative experience? So I came up with this idea. This is a generative stamp set made out of 3 triangles. And they all have this swirly pattern. This is actually the same pattern you can see on my funky garment. That's the same generator behind that. Maybe it's even better visible on this image. So you always get a set of 3 triangles, and the pattern is always connected on one stamp on all 3 sides, on the next stamp only on 2 sides, and on the last stamp only 1 side. And you can arrange them a bit like dominoes, so they always fit together, and you can make your own generative patterns out of that. But each stamp set is also generated individually, so I could give each one its his or her own stamp set to make for them to make their own patterns. And this is what the progress might look like. So you can just arrange them in all the different ways you want and make your own, very nice image out of that. So my conclusion out of this would be, it's sometimes fun to make an art piece, but it can also be very fun to make a tool, either as a software generator, but also maybe a tool in a physical way, like these stamp sets. And one last project I'd like to show you are these PCBs. So this is one example where I ended up with the problem that I could not manufacture my idea on my own at all. Like PCBs, I need to just give to a company to let them produce. I don't have a pick and place. I mean, I can decently solder, but it wouldn't make sense to produce them on my own. I also can't CNC the PCBs in a nice way. But I thought, how could I make PCBs generative? So there's multiple challenges here. So first I came up with the generator. It looked a bit like this. It creates images that I can then just load into KiCad to create the files. And the idea of these PCBs, by the way, is the planets are capacitive touch buttons. So you can touch on each planet, it's registered by the chip. and you can, I don't know, make a little keyboard out of it, for example. So generating the images is the easy part. And I also wanted to play a bit with the material of the PCB. So you can see like the swirls in the background, they are full copper, so if you shine light through them from the backside, they block the light. But on the other hand, I have these stars where there's no copper at all and also no solder mask, so you can shine light through them perfectly. So there's like these two different ends of the spectrum where I can block light, I can let light shine through them to make them more interesting to look at. This is also easy. This can be easily done by manufacturing. But the big problem here is if you, and I'm sure a lot of you already did this, if you order PCBs, they get cheaper the more you order. And this is contrary to my generative art idea that I only want each piece only once. So that's a problem. And so my sort of middle nice way I found to solve this is I always ordered 10 times, like 10 pieces of each design. This is fine from a price standpoint, and what you can also optimize here a bit at least is you can see that the part where the electronics are, these are always the same. And if you order PCBs, you usually need to buy a stencil where they apply the solder paste. And this can also sum up quite quickly, but if they are the same, they can use just the same stencil on all the boards, even if they have different designs on the bottom. So this is a tiny way to cheat a bit and push down the price. A different problem I had with these that I just realized after I got my first batch is that the designs of the capacitive areas are different for each PCB. This also means that the threshold that you need to set to register your touch are slightly different on each board. So I had to like a big disclaimer on each board to, there is this example code, but you might want to fiddle with the values a bit because I don't know if this will work for your board or not. Not too big of a problem, but I think maybe to think of. So these are the projects I wanted to show you. I hope you found them interesting, found it interesting how they came to be. And finally, I just want to say, stay creative, make artsy stuff out of tech. And if you want to have a second look at the slides, you can find them online, and you can also find me online at bleeptrack and check out all the generators and feel free to use them. Thanks.